DeFi is dead, okay? Over with. Finito. There's no way that it makes it past 2023. You want to know why? Listening to this episode.
Man, we coming in hot already. Here on episode 48 of the Block to Block podcast, the best podcast in the world for all things Web3. Here we break down the technology, what's going on in the market, and the ways in which you can benefit. I am NFT and Jai.
And I am Web3 Wayne.
And over here, the talk is different.
Especially today, because we're talking about the fact that DeFi is dead. But before we talk about DeFi being absolutely obliterated by what they call a crypto winter, or if you want to call it recession, or if you want to call it just the end times of crypto and DeFi, that's perfectly fine. Before we do that, though, disclaimer: this podcast is for informational purposes only. We are in no way responsible if you lose your cheese, cheddar, mozzarella, provolone. So you better talk to a financial professional, a financial advisor to make sure that you get right with your money. And other than that, don't blame us because you heard it here first.
Man, heard it here first. Heard it here first. You coming in real hot today. So
Man, listen, I feel a way about DeFi.
you feel away.
Feel a way about DeFi.
Okay, well, just first of all, shout out to all the listeners and all the watchers for we are calling this the lost episode
The last episode.
of Block to Block.
This is the makeup episode, even though we're probably not gonna do another episode this week. We're not gonna talk about it.
Listen,
Or maybe we should talk about it.
well, if you're watching this, just know that today on Thursday, we're having our showcase here in Philadelphia. We BBEX and the Corporate Creative. Shout out to both organizations. We're doing an amazing showcase with a lot of local artists within Philadelphia. And man, the art is fire. It's going to be dope. And they'll be using the Timbuktu platform to really showcase their work and they'll sell it as well. So if you're in Philly, don't play yourselves. Come out to the BBEX Art Showcase, man. It's from 6 to 9 in the P4 Hub. It's going to be a crazy one.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a good time. It's gonna be good vibes. The artists, as you stated, are amazing. They're bringing amazing artwork. Some of the artists are using the Timbuktu platform, which we're excited about. We're excited to, show the world what we've been working on, but also just get the word out about what we're doing with Timbuktu. So definitely, you go ahead if you're in the Philly area. We'll have the Eventbrite link. Come on, pull up on us. And yeah, if not, make sure you follow us at Relink Global. We'll definitely have a recap, and you can check out some of the things that we're doing this year, this summer. It's been a good one thus far, and hope to continue that streak.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, we're doing this is like the last episode because during the week of our event at Essence Fest in New Orleans, we broke our streak of 44 straight weeks and missed the 45th week by not posting out an episode. So to make up for it, we're doing a special edition discussion around the notion of DeFi, right? As crypto was introduced, as NFTs, as all of these technologies were introduced, you probably heard the idea of decentralization, DeFi, like decentralized finance, if you will. And whether or not that is still a key point in regards to like this whole industry is the issue of debate or for discussion today. And so we are heard Web3 Wayne's part. But before you come in with more of those hot takes, can you just tell the people what is DeFi exactly and how does that play into this whole Web3 industry that we're in?
DeFi is the bullshit. DeFi, I can give a quick overview of DeFi, what it is, and just I guess maybe some non-biased information about DeFi and how it plays into the Web3 world. So for those of you that are unfamiliar with DeFi, it is a protocol, that is usually built with some code that is on top of an existing blockchain. Remember, Web3, the main tenet of Web3 technologies is blockchain technology. So it can be built on something as Ethereum as a blockchain, and it's really designed to provide a specific financial product or service. So you have things like crypto trading, crypto lending, crypto insurance, etc. Right? And that DeFi code really executes transactions without traditional financial intermediaries, between parties. So usually the way that things work in traditional finance, centralized finance, is you need a central clearinghouse that will validate a transaction, right? So think of your bank, right? Or think of, let's say, a Stripe, right? If you're going to make a transaction on the internet, you may use Stripe to process the payment. So you go out, you're going to make that transaction. Stripe is going to say, hey, this is a valid transaction. This person has the money. This person has the product. And then they make that exchange and they make that transaction happen. And really the difference between DeFi and that centralized is really the fact that with DeFi, the code or the protocol is that intermediary. So there's no physical person or no physical central body, such as a bank, that is making that call, making the transaction verified, if you will, right? They're not verifying that transaction. So with that as well, another tenet or element that makes it decentralized is the fact that no significant changes are made to the protocol without majority of the community voting on that change. And that's where, a good bit of decentralization comes in, is that everybody has a hand to play within, that protocol and how it acts. So there's 5 types of DeFi that are most relevant to the average consumer, to probably most of the listeners, if you catch this special episode that we put out. That's going to be DeFi lending, DeFi trading, DeFi asset management, DeFi payments, and DeFi insurance. So if you're interested in DeFi, even after I finish telling you that DeFi is dead, you probably should leave it alone. Go and look up DeFi lending platforms, or DeFi trading platforms, or DeFi asset management, or DeFi payments, DeFi insurance, and et cetera, et cetera. There's probably some more innovations around DeFi that you can find you may be interested in. I'm over here shitting on DeFi, but we had the actual DeFi founder, Garrett Ransom, on 2 months ago, month and a half, something like that. Actually really do love his platform, Thurman Labs. And what he's doing, and really just creating a DeFi protocol that allow for small, underrepresented, underserved businesses to obtain loans. So it's another way that DeFi can be applied to financial services. But in a nutshell, that's DeFi.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit about like what really prompted like this notion of DeFi and why we're saying like whether or not if it is true, right? Because at the very base of it all, like the idea is all our traditional financial services, from like banking, currencies, to lending, to insurance and payments, that is happening without these central authorities like these big banks, and is being powered through the use of blockchain technology, right? That's the notion of DeFi at its very, very core. And what made crypto very exciting was this idea of, hey, it's kind of anti-establishment. We can be in a position where the masses of the world can have access to the financial system without having to go through the powers that be when it comes to these large banks and these large institutions, right? And it was looking like that for a bit. We were seeing like crypto prices take off, from like Bitcoin, a whole plethora of cryptocurrencies in general. People around the world have been using it. We saw like a global adoption rate of like 4%, which was interesting within these last few years. But when the whole crypto winter took off, right?
Right.
We seen like a deep decline in terms of prices. And what made it even worse was a lot of the cybersecurity issues a lot of the scams, and then like the big catastrophes like a FTX implosion, right? And now we have like globally, but especially in this country with the SEC, like these regulatory bodies taking like massive actions against the industry. And so you have this idea of, oh, well, if crypto is supposed to be based upon this notion of DeFi, how is it that the government is able to like do these lawsuits, take these regulatory actions that's like effectively anti DeFi in a sense, right? And now, if you watched a couple episodes ago, we now see like financial institutions saying like, "Hey, you can invest in Bitcoin, but instead of you getting this digital currency yourself, what we'll offer is just an ETF for you to invest in Bitcoin specifically." And they're probably doing it or plan on doing it for other cryptocurrencies. And it's crazy because what's been happening on the back end is with all these issues that's been going around, these institutions, the big money people, if you will, coming in, buying up all these cryptos, all the Bitcoin, and now putting it in a traditional financial instrument as an ETF, right? And so that's not DeFi. That's that's it's not DeFi, right? It's like an ETF. Not saying that it's bad. It's just a fact of the matter of you won't own the cryptocurrency directly. You'll just own that underlying asset through the ETF, similar to an ETF or index fund within the stock market, right? So, and it's interesting because the whole notions of, oh, we'll be able to transact globally with like anybody without a central intermediary, that goes out the window if you're just like a proponent of like these crypto ETFs that are like starting to prop up and be applied for. And so, yeah, man.
So yeah, so it sounds like what you're saying is DeFi is deader than dead. They are at this point, they probably, they probably still digging the hole that they're gonna throw DeFi in, because as you mentioned, there were some crashes that happened,
Hmm.
right? And that caused, of course, the whole crypto market to really tank. But what wasn't mentioned is the FTXs and the Terra Lunas, and these were DeFi protocols. They were platforms. They had some other elements to them, but you know, at its basic level, these are DeFi platforms. DeFi is probably the main culprit of why we're experiencing this crypto winter. The DeFi platforms, I think there's a misconception of decentralization that just there's nobody at the center, at the heart of it. It's not true, as we've seen with a lot of these DeFi protocols. And with that, DeFi has become the main target.
Mm.
DeFi is dead for a lot of the reasons that you mentioned. DeFi is also dead because they took advantage of their customers, a lot of the DeFi platforms, right? And they have been the center of attention for regulations, for regulators, for a lot of what's bad in the Web3 world. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, all DeFi platforms are bad. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is we were to look at one spot of the Web3 world where we could do without until they get it, until they figure they ish out, it's probably DeFi. And I think it's dead until DeFi proves me otherwise. Until I see some light at the end of the tunnel, I'll let you know DeFi is dead. And um, you know, I think if it is to make a resurgence, it's going to be at these very, very centralized banks and backed by very, very centralized, uh, you know, central banks,
Right.
right? Like governmental agencies, if you will, organizations. And I don't know, man. What do you do?
Right. Like, I agree with you. This notion of DeFi being anti-establishment. We don't need the central powers. The central powers want to be kicked out or ousted. That was literally just a pipe dream, and that's dead, right? That notion of DeFi is dead, absolutely. Now, what's not going to go away and what's not dying is the underlying technology and how blockchain technology actually operates and how that can be a big aid to like financial services when it comes to just the documentation of like transaction history, different innovations such as maybe having like NFTs or like tokenizations of like different financial instruments, right? And like helping with like processing speeds and everything else of that nature. Those blockchain technologies are still going to exist, right? Which is like a key portion of DeFi. But to your point, I do agree with the notion that what's going to happen is these bigger organizations are going to use that technology in order to become more efficient and to get more market share. However, that doesn't mean that you can't do something similar with your own idea or organization, right? Like going back to a Gary Ransom with his company Thurman Labs, that's a DeFi platform where
Yeah,
they're getting a community of people who want to invest in small businesses, specifically businesses of like Black founders who don't get like proper access to capital. They're just pulling together their money, their resources, and just using it to vote upon which um, companies and ideas they want to like give these microloans to,
yeah,
right? That that's not a new idea because microfinance has been going on for like many decades across the world,
right,
right? Especially in developing countries like in Southeast Asia, countries in Africa, Latin America, the Caribbean. That's been going on.
right.
So like using the technology, the underlying technology to facilitate that whole operation, that's what we're going to be seeing. We're
Mm,
not going to be seeing like your giant banks or giant institutions just go to the wayside.
yeah,
But what we will see
man.
is these organizations using that technology to make everything more efficient.
If anybody came and sold you a pipe dream and said, the revolution is here, cryptocurrency is going to change everything. We're here for a revolution. We're not here. Money is just something that's on the side. It's an aside to. It's a revolution. Go sue them for everything that they have, everything that they own, because they scammed you. They pyramid scammed you
They
big
finessed them.
time. The biggest finesse of the whole pandemic. And there was people we talking about bigger than PPP loans. That's crazy. Bigger than unemployment. That's crazy. The
Mm.
biggest finesse, the biggest scam that came out of the pandemic was DeFi.
You mean the pandemic?
The
You feel me? The
come
pandemic,
on, man.
it was coming up.
Listen. And for our FBI, IRS agents watching this, we didn't participate in the pandemic. Trust me, you would know.
Mhm.
But anyway, DeFi is dead. That's my stance.
Yes. The the initial idea of DeFi and what we were sold on is dead. But the underlying technology can still be used to facilitate a lot of good things when it comes to like finances and making an impact on your community. So don't be discouraged with our take. Like use it as an opportunity to say, okay, how can I use this blockchain technology, whether it's like crypto, whether it's NFTs or make sure or whatever, to really make an impact and to like solve real problems within like financial services. And with that, that's really our take for this lost special episode of episode 48. I am NFT and Jai.
And I am Web3 Wayne. We're out of here.
Peace. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share out with your loved ones.